Hey, it's Mike Brennan. We're back with our summer edition of MITech TV. Not doing it quite as frequently, but well, we're still doing it. And we now have Richard Stiennon returning, one of our usual suspects that we bring in. And wow, he's going to talk about that AT&T hack. It just gets, the more I read about it, the worse it seems to get. It was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was bad. It seems like it's over, right? So yes, it's bad, but don't freak out, even if you're an AT&T customer, because way last May, there was all starting in April, there was a flurry of hacks on customers of Snowflake because somebody got into Snowflake's backend. Snowflake's big data um, software as a service platform. Everybody's it's the cool neighborhood to be in to store your data on Snowflake. And unfortunately, they were hacked, gave them access to most of Snowflake's customers. So the hackers just orchestrated a massive attack against everybody at once, and AT&T got caught in that. So they had a massive file of all 110 million customers activity during most of, I think it was 2022 and 2023, meaning they, associated with your phone number, they had every phone number you ever called or every text, every number you ever texted, and times, dates, locations of all that information. So
Wow.
you're going, wow, that would be really useful for Chinese hackers or Russian hackers or the NSA for that matter, who probably already has all that information anyways. But that's what got people really scared right away. But now we see Kim Zetter reporting that they think that AT&T successfully paid off the hackers, like 5.7 Bitcoin, right, which came out to 372,000 dollars. So pretty low cost. And then the hacker, they were working with an intermediary who's a U.S. researcher who only wanted to be quoted as under his screen name. But they worked with him. He got a fee from AT&T for negotiating on behalf of them, and they got the demand down from 1 million to the 372,000 and paid it. And then they, as proof, they showed a video of him deleting all the files that they had stolen. But we all know, it's like it's every time you read an NDA contract, it says, you will destroy all information shared with you, and you go, really? I'm going to erase some files on my desktop, and how do you prove that you did that and didn't back it up to a USB thumb drive? So there's still that, you pretty much expect all that information is out there somewhere, right? Somebody got it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That,
So, do we know where the hacker was physically? Do we know, where this hacker group is? Where are they based out of?
Well, we think it's dispersed, and there's an involvement. I can't quite make it out of this guy who was a U.S. citizen, and he was under investigation, and he kind of fled to Turkey. So he was in Turkey when he did this hack, um, but he also knew real time while all this was going on that he was under indictment from
Hmm.
U.S. Justice Department, and the Justice Department worked with Turkey in order to get them to arrest him. So he was arrested during this whole process, but luckily he had a compatriot who negotiated the deal. So hey, he's got some money to hire attorneys.
it sounds like the premise for Cyber Stiletto that we did, which is
A
now
lot.
11 years ago. Talk about
Yeah,
being ahead of
amazing.
the news, right? Okay. So, sorry, man, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say maybe we should have Bailey Osterley track this guy down
Oh
in
yeah,
Turkey and interview him.
there we go. That'd be good.
Uh,
We know where he is. We'll know what jail he's in. So that would
a
be.
Turkish jail. Could there be anything worse? I don't think so.
We've all seen
So,
the movie.
oh,
French
yeah.
French jails are pretty bad.
Well, hopefully I'll never experience any of those. So, but anyway, so the other big news is, and I didn't know about it until you sent me your talking points 'cause I didn't see it yesterday. is Google has bought Wiz for $23 billion. Now, I know what Google is. I'm not sure what Wiz is. What is that?
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, it's just a Wall Street Journal report of Google is in high level sources say Google is in talks to
Oh,
buy
okay. All
Wiz,
right.
right? A deal like that's going to take a little while to put together. It's not like, I mean, if you think about it, that is the size, the amount that Time Warner paid for AOL 24 years ago. So, and that took a lot of contract stuff, but Wiz is a much simpler deal because much simpler company. It's only been around for 3 years, I think.
Oh,
Um, so Wiz came out of nowhere, from the perspective of an industry analyst, right? Yet another small Israeli startup that was one of the many, just like Orca, that you basically you give the platform your keys to your Amazon account, and it immediately grabs all the data that Amazon already gives you for free, but puts it in a dashboard, and it's called Cloud Security Posture Management is the general category. But basically, it'll tell you if you've got misconfigurations or vulnerabilities or weird stuff going on. And within a year, they were at 100 million in annual recurring revenue
wow.
because it was the sales process was so straightforward with these cloud security solutions, and that you get a prospect on the phone and they say, well, what does it look like? What does it do? Well, we'll just show you. Give us your key, type in the 25 digits, whatever. Boom, got everything right there in front of you. First time they've ever seen their own data displayed in this way. Immediately gaining insights, and they go, we need that. Send us an invoice. We'll just keep it. Don't turn it off. We've already installed it. So very, very short sales cycle to get them up and running. It's a subscription model. So it turns into annual recurring revenue, which creates an valuation, usually 10x. And then it continued to just take bigger and bigger funding rounds until it took in earlier this year $1 billion in venture capital.
No kidding. I've never heard
Yeah,
of one that big, so.
huge, huge, huge. Now, mind you, by this time it was already a unicorn, in other words, valued at over $1 billion. And the rest of the investment community could see the momentum. And so when they're investing in the valuation when they invested that was about $13 billion, which had a lot of people scratching their heads, right? Because that's bigger than much bigger than IPOs generate for companies. So what exit plan could there be? Even if you IPO'd, it's really hard to IPO at that level. And now we've got the answer, right? There's Google, one of the biggest companies in the world, is offering $23 billion. That means the last people in that bought it at a 12 or $13 billion valuation have doubled their money in less than 6 months. Pretty good.
Well, that's the internet economy, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's one thing that was interesting about this to me, because after I saw your headline, I read a little bit about it, is that there is so much information out there on all of us that we don't know is floating around out there.
Yeah.
And that, to be able to aggregate that and put it all in one place and put it in a format that a normal person can make sense of, there is real value to that.
Yeah, yeah. Earlier in the week, there was another hack, or a hacker released supposedly a data on 10 billion passwords. So, more passwords than there are people in the world. And
Okay.
a couple of the researchers have been poking around at it. It's kind of hard to deal with a file that big. And they're saying it looks a lot like it could just be random output from a brute force algorithm. Just create every possible combination of letters and numbers and special characters, and boom, there's your 10 billion passwords.
Yeah.
But there'll probably be some repercussions from that. But it sounds like the consensus is that's too big a file to deal with. It's like, so the way people use it, they've been doing this against my wife Karen all week, is somewhere in one of those release things, your credentials were stolen. So maybe they have your email address and your username and your password to something, just one thing, right? But by then, you get alerted, so you've changed your password. They can't break in. But then they systematically go to every single online anything and try and log in with your email and username and that password. And so if you've ever reused a password, they're immediately in. So you definitely don't want to ever reuse the password you use for your online banking or your social security. Now that I'm at that age where I have to think about that. None of that stuff should have, all that stuff should always have unique passwords. And literally just write them down on a piece of paper. If you're old like me, you're going to want to do that. You're going to have special characters and all the rest. And of course, you've got to use it on your stupid cell phone. So you can't actually have command, ampersand, at sign. That's just way too difficult. You'll never type it in correctly. So you bare minimum for those things that you do on your phone.
Huh.
Yeah.
Go
A
ahead.
company one of my friends worked for said their IT people have now requested them to start using randomly generated 16-character passwords.
Yeah. And I do that in my browser, just let it remember it. And the only problem is if you accidentally don't hit save new password when the app asks you, you'll never get it back. You gotta start over.
I know somebody who lost a Twitter account that way. So
yeah. That would be bad.
So we still got a few minutes left. What other hot cybersecurity news is going on out there this summer?
Well, I've actually issued a press release of my own, and last Wednesday, and this is speaks very much to what Governor Snyder was talking about. So we have a partnership with a company called Black Kite, and they do third-party risk assessments. So they have a database of millions of companies, and they ping them and they scan them remotely to see if they have vulnerabilities. And so we just went to them. We said, hey, we'll use your data on the 3,900 vendors that we track in the IT Harvest dashboard. So now you can see, if they get a C minus, like I've looked at some really big companies, and you're outside looking in, you're looking at their website and all their network facing assets and determining if they're doing a good job of hygiene. If they're not, that tells you a little bit about the company. Might not, be directly related to how secure they are, but it kind of indicates. But Black Kite has this ransom susceptibility index, and they went back and if it approaches 0.6, the CEO tells me that it's like dead nuts sure they're going to get hit by ransomware. And he went back and looked at the United Health division that got whacked with ransomware. He went back and looked at the historical numbers, and they were over 0.6 when they got hit with ransomware. It's just, he could use it predictively, but, that you could run into legal problems if you did that. But it's pretty cool stuff. So we're incorporating the security risk metrics from Black Kite into our own health metric. We have a 0 to 100 scale for every vendor, and we don't use it for whether the vendor is your customer or not. We use it for our venture capitalists that subscribe to our platform. It's really cool.
Sounds
and
like
then even cooler, it was just coincidence that at the same time frame we finally came home with our NIST alignment capability. So we tracked 10,666 cybersecurity products that are out there. So firewalls, antivirus things, all that. And we lined them up with which of the NIST cybersecurity framework they apply to. So now you can do searches, you can take your own products, upload them, and figure out your coverage and your gaps versus NIST cybersecurity framework.
Interesting. Okay. So, and the Cybersecurity Yearbook, just before we let you go, how's that doing?
It's doing great. In its second printing, that's the first time it's ever gone into a second printing. So Wiley must know what they're doing. Nothing like having a publisher behind it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, congratulations on that. So you'll be
There's
able to really build out that writer's loft of yours when all that money comes in, right?
there's no room to build it. I got to just live right in here, and I could double up on the bookshelves and reduce the breathing space.
Yeah, put a second floor on it or something.
There you go.
All right, Richard. Well, how do folks find out more? And of course, order that cybersecurity yearbook you just held up.
Yeah, the yearbook, you just go on Amazon and search on Security Yearbook and you'll find it. And then look me up on LinkedIn.